It's just not Shadow Daddy style protection. Wow, that's a sentence I never thought I'd say! Okay! Hey you geeks! So this video is basically a sequel, in spirit at least, to a video I made years ago on Brandon Sanderson's Dead Wives Club, because let's face it, a lot of his male heroes have dead wives. Yet, I wanted to do something for the ladies, as it were, but Undead Husbands Club just didn't have a nice ring to it. So I waited until the phrase cognitive shadow daddy appeared to me from one of your comments. Thank you for the comment. Full spoiler warning, through Wind and Truth, we shall be ranking these fine gentlemen on the scale of top is ideal cognitive shadow daddy. Second is yes, but he glows. Third and mid-tier is close enough. Fourth is not terribly right. And five and bottom, reserved for only one person on this list, is utterly toxic and terrible Y. Sanderson. If you are one of my normal viewers, you may have no idea what a shadow daddy even is. So let us explore that first. What is a cognitive shadow daddy? Most of the men on this list are what Sanderson refers to, or rather his characters refer to, as Type 2 invested entities. And the character who gives us this definition is none other than Zyle or Vasher himself, who unsurprisingly finds himself on this list, as he explains. If you let a man die with 2 invested a soul, or invest him right as he's dying, he'll leave behind a shadow you can nail back onto a body. His own, if you're feeling charitable. Once done, Zyle waved to himself. Type 2 invested entity. Dead man walking. So a cognitive shadow is basically a soul stamped into a form of pure magic, or investiture as it's referred to in the Cosmere. Technically, they don't need a body to be a cognitive shadow, but it helps, especially with the whole romance thing that we're working towards here. As for the shadow daddy part of cognitive shadow daddy, it is a trope that is currently seeing a lot of use in modern romantasy, although I would argue that it has its roots back to the myth of Eros and Psyche, where the god of love is literally cloaked in shadow for most of the story. The shadow daddy archetype embodies a blend of darkness and devotion, power and desire. He exists in the liminal space between fallen and ascended, protector and mystery. Now, if we include the Darkling from the Shadow and Bone series, the romantic interest doesn't need to be endgame or even remotely healthy for the female main character, but it needs to be present, I feel. So combining that list of descriptors for a shadow daddy, along with the definition of cognitive shadow, I think we get our list of ideal attributes for a cognitive shadow daddy of the Cosmere. So I will be judging these by and large gentlemen on the following characteristics. Are they a cognitive shadow? Do they convey darkness? Are they a protector type? Do they have the power requisite to be a shadow daddy? And do they evoke a sense of desire from both the female main character and the reader, who is the most important judge, because I said so. In order of their book's release, we're starting with Raoden, who's coming in at close enough. He is a cognitive shadow. He is an Elantrian. And he has a decent air of darkness. He is a magical zombie at his core who is personally responsible for teaching me that, yes, I do still find undead men attractive when they can glow. However, it's also canon that Raoden is garbage at brooding. His friend Kaladin, the designated brooder of the book, even tells him off when Raoden tries to edge in on his characterization. Protector. It's not really part of Raoden's archetype for most of the story. As the ruler of New Elantris, he does feel a sense of protectiveness of his people, but he designates the actual fighting to various soldiers. For example, when Serene is in danger by raving madmen, magically mad, Eondel, a loyal soldier to Raoden, is the one who pulls the sword, where Raoden just sits on a bag of grain. It's heartbreaking on so many levels. By the end of the story, Raoden does get to dramatically beam himself across the ocean to rescue the distressing Serene in her moment of need, and it is beautiful, but also, at that point, he is physically a ray of sunshine. As for the power level, even if you're king of the leper colony, Serene is the one with the food, and the soldiers, and the steel, and everything. So it's not really until she becomes magically a leper, sort of, kind of, where she's actually under his power or domain, which that's the kind of dynamic you need to really get the daddy part of the Shadow Daddy going. And yeah, Serene, fears his wrath for all of 5 seconds in the book, but it's not a major part of their relationship dynamic at all. Speaking of romance, Raoden's desire, I find, I've said it before on Instagram, and I'll say it again. He is just as hot as Adolin storming Kholin, okay? Come at me. Problem is, Raoden and Adolin are both shining Prince Charming. It's just one happens to be a zombie for most of the book. And in the romanticides with Shadow Daddies, the Prince Charmings often find the lack of the heroine's perfection to be a problem, to put it mildly. However, Raoden doesn't do that, for when Serene is at her lowest, when she has been cast into Elantris as a apparent magical leper, Raoden shows her kindness and loves her, and Serene recognizes that he loved her at her worst possible moment. And that's really the core of what a Shadow Daddy romance is about. So Raoden has it. He's got that spark, but it's like a chapter, and then it's over. So close enough, but not quite a Shadow Daddy. Zane is utterly toxic. No apologies, okay? Let's go there. Cognitive Shadow. He's not one, not at all, but he belongs on this list, I feel like, because he is Sanderson's first attempt at writing at least the proto-Shadow Daddies that would dominate the market of today by writing a brooding boy type. Well of Ascension came out in 2007, so we're talking about Twilight level behavior being acceptable in romance. As for the darkness portion, him being a dark figure is easy. He's an assassin. He is the illegitimate son of an evil noble. He wears black all the time, and he's very broody about it. So he's a very dark character. Protector. And we've lost it again. Zane does offer Vin the opportunity to run away with him before the final battle, but he doesn't protect her at any other time in this book. We never get him flying in to defend her when she's most vulnerable. That just doesn't happen. As for Zane's power, here's where Sanderson tried and failed, because at Vin's first perception of him, she sees him as the most powerful mistborn she has met since Kelsier. Tying Zane in with her pseudo-father figure, very much Shadow Daddy potential here. And then the plot goes on to reveal that Zane's power is even more illusory than regular power, for he might be a super powerful mistborn, but that's because he has Duralumin. So once Vin gets Duralumin, they're pretty much even, but she's still smarter. He doesn't actually have a lot of power with his father. He's just his minion. And I want to note here, when I was doing research for this video, that Zane tries to kill his father with the help of his lover and woman of the night, Amaranta. Not kidding. I had to check. Akotar came out in 2015. Well of Ascension came out in 2007. So no matter how you slice it, Zane is not the most cunning mistborn, or the most intelligent mistborn, or the most handsome mistborn. ACOTAR fans, if you're out there, let me know if you got this down in the comments. If you're confused, also let me know. As for the desirability of this absolute trash bag of a person, yeah, he's like 19 and acts like it, so reading this as an adult, I couldn't empathize or join in Vin's fleeting admiration for this cretin. Like, why, Sanderson? Why? Susebron. Yes, but glows. First off, he is a return, so easily check cognitive shadow, done. His darkness is a matter of perspective, let's just say. Most importantly, from Ciri, the love interest's perspective, he is a dark, shadowy figure. He wears black around her. He lives in a dark, looming palace where she rightfully but wrongly fears that she will be sacrificed on an altar any day now. However, in public, he wears white, and to his people, he is seen as a beneficent deity. To Ciri's people, not so much. So that's not exactly a deal breaker, but despite him having a relatively traumatic childhood of being stillborn, returned, having his mother taken from him at a young age, raised by priests who cut out his tongue, Susebron seems remarkably unfazed by all that and well-adjusted. He is not the brooding kind, so far as we can tell. In fact, the more we get to know him, he is quite the cinnamon roll. As for Susebron's protectiveness or function in the story, he has the desire, like Raoden, to protect his beloved, but he lacks the capacity for most of the book. He does come to her rescue beautifully at the end when he's smiting people with his power of bright glowing light, so not so great on the darkness and shadow vibes anymore. As for Susebron's power, he actually gives off that physical aura that we like to see in a cognitive shadow daddy, but of course his aura is that of making colors more vibrant and happy and bright. And I think what's most important in their dynamic is, even though he lacks the political and magical ability he appears to have for most of the book, in the bedroom, he still has all of the power, and barring a few miscommunications, tries to make Ciri as comfortable there as he can, despite his limitations, which that's the thing about the power imbalance, is that there needs to be a power imbalance so that the female main character can see him set it aside for her, and that's a basis of their relationship, as it is between Ciri and Susebron, and that is why they're so cute. As for Susebron's undeniable desirability, he's a cinnamon roll. Vasher is not terribly bright. He's a cognitive shadow, check. As for his darkness, he literally carries around a sword of destruction, for Warbreaker at least, that oozes black smoke, much befitting of a shadow daddy. He also has a tortured past as a founding member of the Dead Wives Club, and has committed several war crimes that I think he feels pretty guilty about. So, good for him, he's got the darkness angle down. As for him being a protector, every time he does something remotely protective in Warbreaker, it feels like he got forced into it. He does get the scene where Ravenna is about to get taken away by thugs and she's vulnerable, and he gets the looming entrance with the dark sword of doom and just wastes everyone in the alley except for her, of course. However, it felt like he was forced into it. And at the end, when he does use his power to save her kingdom, she has to bully him into doing that. It's kind of sad. Then when we see him as Zyle on Roshar, no one's there to bully him into helping people. So for the first 3 books, he's basically doing squat, even though he got tied up at the siege of Urithiru of sorts. He just doesn't have that protector instinct that motivates him plot-wise, I must say. As for Vasher's power level, in a classic Sanderson-style swap, he has all the power in Warbreaker. He just doesn't look like it, which is kind of a problem because Shadow Daddies need to have all the power and show that they have all the power, hence the aura being a common feature of a Shadow Daddy. And the final nail in Vasher's undead coffin of cognitive Shadow Daddiness, his desirability is like, as he appears most often, completely 0. Like, he has the long, dark, brooding locks, peak, but he's like old, and Vivenna, as far as Warbreaker tells us, doesn't have that kind of attraction to him, though she does agree to go off on crazy adventures with him afterward. And I see where the fanfic writers get their stuff from. Like, there's potential, but it's not realized in the book. Hoid, who is close enough. Now, Hoid's status as a cognitive shadow is debatable. Following my video 2 weeks ago, one of you lovely commenters informed me that they didn't think Hoid was a cognitive shadow. I was aghast and went to do my research and found that Sanderson did give this single word on the nature of Hoid's person a few years ago. You shouldn't be reading too much into that, Hoid. It's just that he's had so many things happen to him over the years, and so many changes to his spirit web, and things like that. I would say yes, he is still human, and Lift is as well, but there have been modifications made. And I really should have remembered that answer, because he was answering my question at Dragonsdale 2023. Embarrassing. But let's split the hair and say that cognitive shadows are souls who have had their spirit web messed with by investiture. And that is basically what Sanderson is saying here. To Hoid's darkness level, if Rowan from Throne of Glass can be a white-haired shadow daddy, then so can Hoid. Hoid also carries around a good deal of angst from the whole killing Adonalcium and ripping apart the body and scattering it to the winds thing. But he doesn't brood about it in the way that a shadow daddy would. Rather, he makes sarcastic jokes at everyone's expense like a real person would. How strange. As for his protective nature, he kind of, like Vasher, scores really low here because he sees people in danger and he wants to help them, but he doesn't actually attack on their behalf. We know that Hoid physically can't, although he does gear up the heroes and prepare them to go save the day. Hoid himself does make a verbal sparring match on Yasna's behalf, but that's just priming the guy so that Yasna can take the stand for herself and stab the guy. Power level. Again, this is difficult. He doesn't seem like he's casually carrying around all the power in the universe capable of killing a god, but he is. And because of that, he can't attack mere mortals, as it were, but he can punch Kelsier. Yay! Even though Yasna, his love interest, identifies him as an enemy at the end of Words of Radiance, they soon get over that when she realizes that she can use him for information, and by book 4, they're basically equals in their own relationship. So we never really feel Yasna's squirming at being at Hoid's mercy and him being beneficent in his power. Maybe that's what she was chafing under at the beginning of Wind and Truth and just not able to articulate it. As for Hoid's desirability, he is desirable. That is a fact of the Cosmere. Moving on. Kaladin. Yes, but close, verging on the ideal. Kaladin, by the end of Wind and Truth, is a herald, which makes him unquestionably a cognitive shadow. darkness. The guy literally had danger branded on his forehead for most of the book and was super broody about it because of his clinical depression and super tortured past that we got to see in wonderful detail. But what makes the icing on the cake, aside from his long, flowing, dark, curly locks, when his scar is healed, Kaladin went and got a face tattoo! These are very important for most modern Shadow Daddies, and I don't know if Sanderson is aware of just how, important that is for the Shadow Daddy trope, but Kaladin's got one. And now that he's a herald again, has dark eyes. The only flaw with Kaladin being an image of darkness and brooding is that his magic power is literally wielding light. As for Kaladin being the ideal protector, he's a windrunner. That is their ideals. They swear the oaths to protect. We see him do it for 5 books. The only flaw with Kaladin's protection is in book 2 when he kind of sort of accidentally almost kills Syl, his, for right now, alleged love interest. Kaladin is the most powerful Knight Radiant consistently throughout the Stormlight Archive, but as a knight, he gets all of his power from his relationship with Syl. It's beautiful and healthy, but Syl is never feeling like she's at Kaladin's mercy. She kind of is, as we saw in book 2, but when we briefly see into her head in Rhythm of War, that's not part of her equation of their dynamic at all. And it must be said that often in the Shadow Daddy relationship, the male is older by hundreds of years as a display of his power and maturity, whereas the female is mortally 20 years old. Now, Kaladin and Syl's power age dynamic is weird because Kaladin is only 19 when she, the 1,000-year-old spirit, meets him. However, she is described as girlish several times in Way of Kings and Words of Radiance, and Sanderson does try to retcon this in later books that, she was just girlish in the way that all fully grown women are girlish. But from Kaladin's perception, he sees her as a child and then watches her mature to womanhood in a way that's distinctly more, Memoirs of a Geisha type of relationship than a 300-year-old man watching a 19-year-old come into herself as a fully mature woman would be. So you see why that's a bit weird? Is it creepy? Is it endearing? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments. Desire. I do not think there is a single person on Roshar who does not have the tiniest crush on Kaladin, except for maybe Syl herself. We see in her head that she is very attached to Kaladin as her knight, her radiant, her champion, as it were, but I don't really sense eros between the two on her side. And Kaladin and her do have a lovely dance in Wind and Truth. That is everything a dance should be between lovers. But that's the first I'm hearing about this. So their relationship, if it goes forward, is not one between Shadow Daddy and female protagonist. It just ain't. But if Kaladin had a relationship with any other female character on Roshar besides Yasna, he would be her perfect cognitive Shadow Daddy. But he ain't. Those are my rankings for the cognitive Shadow Daddies of the Cosmere. Please let me know your thoughts down in the comments. If you are a straight male who has never come across these ideas before, I would love to hear your reaction to how women can process books sometimes. Otherwise, stick around. We hit a wide range of fantasy and Cosmere-related content here, so like, share, and subscribe if you want to see more. Thanks for watching. Bye!